to season 2. Season 1 was all about learning for me how to do a podcast, and for the guests about what mattered to them when it came to culture, leadership and EVP. I've made it my mission over the last 11 years, 12 years within further education recruitment to learn so much about people, culture, what makes the organisations tick, and ultimately try and bring you podcasts with people that really make a difference. As we move into season 2, it's become more of a conversation. So you'll notice that the style is more relaxed, that we are about putting these leaders at ease and learning the best parts of their journey. Some of the challenges that they've faced, some of the amazing people that they've met, some of the incredible outcomes that they've produced. Season 2 is about some of the best conversations I think you've got to hear. And we have so many exciting guests, so many really passionate, incredibly experienced people that are going to add so much value if you take the time to listen to this podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the page and follow to learn more. So, welcome to another leadership conversation. Today takes us all the way to Solihull, to the Solihull College and University Centre. And today we've got Rebecca Gator. Rebecca, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so I've been in FE for 25 years. So
just
a long
last
time.
week.
Yeah, 25 years. It feels quite frightening when you actually think about how many years it's been.
We've got to go through that a bit more as well,
Yeah,
so
so
don't
25 years. So I'm currently the Principal Chief Exec at Solihull College and University Centre. Started as an hourly paid lecturer in my local FE college, and I've worked in colleges all that time.
So we've been in further ed for 25 years. How did we go into a little bit more about how we got into further education? Because starting as an hourly paid lecturer, what subject, which college, where were you?
So I started out as an hourly paid lecturer. I just finished my degree. I was in a situation where I'd done an HR degree and I was going to go and work in HR. And then in the final year of my degree, I became pregnant unexpectedly. So I thought, right, okay, so I'm going to have to go into the city if I want to do HR. That's going to be difficult with childcare and all those kind of things. So I wanted to rethink what my career path is. Fortuitously, and it's like by serendipity really, a neighbour of mine, said, actually the local college, which is like less than a mile down the road, are looking for someone to teach marketing to some sports students on a Wednesday morning. Why don't you have a go at that? And I thought, okay, I can do marketing. I've done a degree. My degree, although it ended up being HR, it started out being business, so it's quite generic. So I thought, well, that'll fit in quite well. I can manage that with childcare. That's it. So 3 hours on a Wednesday morning, teaching marketing to sports students. I just then, as does happen in FE, picked up more hours, went into the business department. I'd done A-levels in French and Spanish, so the community and adult manager said, that's great, we're short of a Spanish teacher, so do Spanish on an evening. So I did a bit of a hodgepodge of all different things, but it was brilliant because I could fit it in around childcare. It was local and, it just worked really well and it was really interesting. So it started from there.
That is a walking advert for what further education is literally all about. And the last couple of people I've spoken to have all said, got into it through someone essentially down the pub, neighbour, local community said, local college needs someone, you seem like you've got good passion. They obviously saw your energy and were like, you could be useful here. Yeah. And then suddenly we're teaching 3 hours and then suddenly we're teaching 30 hours and then it's a busy week, right?
That's it.
Which college was this? Where were you?
Stourbridge. So it's no longer a college anymore, but it was great. So I worked there for, I think, 6 or 7 years and I had different job roles throughout that time. Worked at different campuses. So it was really interesting. But that was, it was at my local, I lived in Stourbridge, so that's my local FE college. So it was a great place to start, to cut my teeth in FE, I guess. Really.
So at what point then in all of this, working your way through, and it's very FE journey that, and I echo your statement. When did we become a leader? When did we become a manager? And then that trajectory now to sitting in the top spot?
I suppose by luck and opportunity rather than design.
I
don't think you would ever think when you're 15 and you're having a career, I want to be a principal of an FE college. It just isn't. It just isn't something that you necessarily see unless you've got that in your family or whatever. Then that might be different. Yeah. So I think it's definitely about opportunity. So I did my hourly paid. I got a contract and stepped up my hours, and then the manager left. And she was like, you could do this job, put yourself forward for this role. So I thought, okay. And she sort of talked me into that. So I applied for the role. And then as time went on, just other opportunities became available. And it's just about having conversations with people. And I think that might be interesting. Are you interested in that role? And you think, oh, actually, I could see myself doing that. So it's just taking those opportunities as they arise. There was lots of, in my next college, so I worked at a different college after Stourbridge, there was lots of restructures where they would, there'd be 12 people and then there'd be 8 jobs. So then you'd go for that, but it would be a step up because you'd be doing more work. So just taking those opportunities every time they come around, and then next thing you know, you're the principal and CEO.
And how long have we been principal and CEO at Solihull?
3 years. So I've just had my 3rd anniversary in September.
And what role were you in just before that one?
So I've been, this is my 3rd role at this college. So I started as assistant principal in 2016, then vice principal for curriculum and quality, and then principal CEO.
Fantastic.
So 10 years in January I'll have been at the college, but 3 years in my current role.
Oh, fantastic. And that is, again, I think it might be a stereotype here because that's a walking advert for progression. One of my bugbears, call it that, is that we don't do enough as a sector to communicate how readily available we are to progress people.
Yeah.
Even if you haven't got a plan.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound like there's not a joined up, I'm going to jump here, do this, jump, and I'm going to make it.
Yeah.
Just opportunity and saying yes and being a passionate. The same thing we always look for, right? We want someone passionate. We want someone that loves the outcome and genuinely enjoys the job. That's crazy. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. But why have you stayed in FE then? What's kept you, other than progression, which we've talked about, what keeps you in this place?
Every day is different. It never gets boring. And I think in every role I've had, so from hourly paid lecturer to what I'm doing now and everything in between, every day is different, There's lots of challenges, but you really feel the sense of making a difference and making an impact, and you can tangibly see the impact on people's lives of not just what you're personally doing, but collectively what you're doing to improve people's lives. I did have a couple of years when I went to work in schools, so I had an opportunity to work in schools. I worked at a private school for 2 or 3 years, and I worked at a secondary school that was in special measures for a couple of years as well. But it just wasn't the same. So
talk to me a little bit about that, because that's interesting. What was
the private school? It was amazing. It was an amazing opportunity, and I'm really glad I did it. We get to go in the Great Hall for lunch and get served a 3-course lunch. It was a really lovely. It was like being in Hogwarts. It was a really lovely environment, and the students there were so privileged. We've got amazing equipment, facilities. But I know this sounds a bit strange, but it just really lacked any challenge, and it lacked that sort of drive of making a difference to people, because it was a very different cohort of learners to what I was used to in FE. And it was almost a bit too, or can we have this set of textbooks? Can we have this equipment and these? Can we have this? And it was like, here you go. So there was no challenge.
Can you imagine just getting what you want when you want it?
It felt like you weren't having to be entrepreneurial, weren't having to problem solve, weren't having to think outside the box. And again, I think someone said to me the other day, you have to be a special kind of weirdo to work in FE. And I think where some people would say, why didn't you stay in that environment where everything, you could just have whatever you wanted, and it just, I think to work in FE you need to have that challenge. If you enjoy it and you thrive on that and solving problems and critical thinking, I think I missed that. So I came back into FE. So I was out for about 5 years and then I came back.
I see what you mean. I don't agree, for the audience, I don't agree with the special sort of weirdo. You're not all weird.
No.
But I absolutely agree that we are, as a sector, and I say I've done it for 12 years recruiting into it, so I feel part of it, but we really enjoy making things happen on limited resources that create tremendous student outcomes.
Yeah.
And I almost think the fact we enjoy it means the government really doesn't want to support us in doing it, because we do make do and we do achieve results. Bit of a catch-22 really, because if we just pulled up our oars, stopped innovating and just say, well, we'll just do what you pay us to do, it would be a very different sector, and I don't think I would enjoy some of the challenges that are propelled my way if that was the case.
Yeah.
So that's so interesting.
Yeah.
So challenge.
And it is tongue-in-cheek, the weirdo. I agree. We're not weird. We're not weird. I think you've got to have I think you've certainly got to have a certain mindset and a certain drive. You've got to be driven by certain things, I think, to enjoy and benefit from the challenge of working in the sector.
You keep giving me more questions, so if you're not enjoying this, we're in trouble. So
yeah.
Challenges and enjoying the sector. What do you think the three main things are people really need to enjoy to take part in FE and really get the best from it?
Variety and diversity.
Yep.
Not just of people, but of things that go on in the sector and change. They've got to enjoy change.
The only constant is change.
Yeah, relentless change and pacey change. And I think finding out ways to make things work and finding out ways to make a difference as well to people. I think you've got to be able to be adept and flexible and agile in your thinking and be willing to take risks and try different things and I suppose evaluate what what the outcomes are and what the impact is of those things, and then to try different things. So
we have to try different things.
I couldn't articulate that in one word, but
we've got three, 4, 5 probably good words that we can grip there, and I think to regurgitate them back at you: diversity, change, challenge, innovation, creativity. These things will all serve you very well in a career.
Yeah.
And so what would your advice then be to someone that's looking to get into further education? What would you say to them?
I think get your foot in the door first and foremost. That's what I did when I was doing the hourly paid work. Get your foot in the door, whether it's volunteering, offering to shadow, thinking about what you might want to do, what you can offer, and then take those steps, be brave and get involved. Because I think if you find ways to get involved, then people will see your potential. They'll see what impact you can add, what you can do, what value you can add, and then you'll have more opportunities. So I think getting in the organisation in one way or another is the first step. Yeah. A degree student contacted me the other day and said, I'm really interested. I think I want to work in FE, but I'm not 100% sure. So I advised her just to, offer to shadow some teaching, offer to go and take some small groups out and support them with their English GCSE and see what you think. And, but when you're in the organisation, you might get training, you might get other opportunities, and you'll know if it's for you or not. So just, take the step and get involved.
And you're quite lucky in further ed in that sense, because we can just give people tasters, right? We can bring them in. Yeah. Show them what life's all about. I don't see a lot of that in schools. I see quite a lot of that in universities where you've got more mature learners that aren't suddenly shocked by this adult sort of sat in the classroom.
Yeah.
And also, so much to do. Just try, because also your career in further education might take you supposedly up and down, but in reality it might take you through support of further ed in terms of the functionality. You could end up anywhere. I've had one of those interesting careers of a person I quite admire. She basically started in curriculum, worked all around employer engagement, and somehow ended up in HR, and she absolutely loves it. And she's now director of HR and people, and I just didn't have that background. So got to the point where she was managing people, understood the scope of further ed, and is now right at the top of it.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy.
Yeah.
What do you reckon then the biggest misconception that people have about further ed is?
I think that it's second choice. So for staff, for students alike. So, if you don't get into sixth form, you go to further ed. That's just simply not true.
Yeah.
If you can't be a school teacher or you can't work in universities, you'll go and work in FE. And again, that's simply not true either. So I think there is a perception of people who don't understand the sector that it's a second choice, and actually it's a driver of economic growth and skilled workforce and, community.
Everything. We're in the heart
of things, social justice, everything.
On the way here, I went down Blossom Hill Drive. Yes. I think it is.
Yeah.
Can I call it Billionaires Row?
Yeah.
In Solihull?
Yeah.
So never in my life have I seen so many beautiful, massive, expensive, economically vibrant homes.
Yeah.
And then cruise straight into what is a beautiful, fantastic campus, heart of this local community. There's no flavour of second choice here. It looks like first choice. And also, and in the broader setting, I haven't seen a university train a plumber. I haven't seen them train a Sparky. I haven't seen them teach. I have seen them teach English and maths, but I haven't seen them teach health and social care at level 5. So what I'm seeing is these engines of roles, the bulk of where we need people. And luckily, Labour government have seen that and are talking about doing things. We shall see what those talkings look like.
I think on that point as well about driving through, we were quite offended a few Ofsted inspections ago, but I don't know, it might have been 10, 12 years ago, where the opening line was that Solihull College is in a leafy suburb of and it paints a picture of what we are, or what they're suggesting that we are. But actually, most of our students don't come from Solihull. Most of them come from Birmingham. We were a 10 to 15 minute ride on the train. In this campus particularly, and they see it as an aspirational place to be, so to move away from some of the school friends that they had, maybe get different influences in life, get different friendship groups, and they see it as an aspirational place to travel to because it is such a lovely area. So actually, when they said we were in a leafy suburb and they painted this picture of us dealing with these, just one type of learner, actually it's not. We're a really diverse college, and we serve people from all different communities around the region, because we can get easily to the campus on train and bus and various things, and they painted a picture of which isn't what we are, I think, really.
And I think if I were to paint a picture that would update that, I'm in a thriving, multicultural, diverse and exciting campus in the heart of a nice place, for sure.
Exactly.
And like all places, you always go, oh, that's not a nice place, that is a nice place.
Yeah.
We all have nice bits. There are beautiful parts of Solihull where we are currently located, and there are some terrible parts. Nothing's to say where these learners have come from. So right. Not going to go to war with Ofsted over this, but rightly offended. I would find that context builder not fair.
That's it. Yeah.
So, not highlight that, but in terms of your proudest moment, in terms of what's taken you here and what you would say was one of those good days.
Every week, or every 2 or 3 times a week, there's a really proud moment. I don't think it's really hard to pick one, but even yesterday as an example. So I spent yesterday here and at Stratford showing people around. So we had one of the FE Commissioner's team, who's a national leader of governance, came yesterday. We've got a new chair this calendar year, sorry. And he has been mentoring him. So he came to have a look round. And again, it's great to walk around the area, show the facilities, the equipment, talk to the managers, talk to the students, talk to staff. And that's great. I always get a sense of pride showing people around the campuses. And then we were really lucky yesterday afternoon, Simon Pegg, the A-list celebrity.
He's definitely up there.
Alumni,
hot fuzz for anyone that doesn't know.
And Mission Impossible and loads of other things, Shaun of the Dead. He's alumni at our Stratford campus. Brilliant. And he wanted to come round and do a Q&A with students. So we showed him around the campus yesterday afternoon.
Brilliant.
We filled our theatre, full of students. And the way that they engaged, asking questions, really insightful questions.
And some of them would be too young for hot fuzz. So
well, they'd done their research, so they knew. Some I did cringe a little bit when some of them said, "My mum and dad really like you." But they engaged so well. We've got loads of performing arts and creative students at Stratford, so that was huge for them. But just to see them and the excitement on their faces, and asking for autographs and the questions that they were asking him in that Q&A, again, a real sense of pride and privilege to see how that's impacted on them as well. So I think every day there's something, and it's really hard to say. I don't think I have a proudest moment. There are so many of them.
Yeah, but interestingly, you haven't mentioned this book that's upcoming.
No.
And so that...
I can't be proud of that.
You can't be proud of it yet,
not but in print.
You can definitely tell me a little bit more about that book.
Okay, so it's a book called Inspiring Senior Leadership in Further Education, Stories from the Front Line. So what it is ultimately a collection of stories from senior leaders in FE, as the clue in the title. But where it came from was a couple of years ago. So in 2022, I did a doctorate in education. And I focused it on senior leadership in further education. And that was because there was talk of this pipeline, or lack of a pipeline, and an ageing population of principals, an ageing population of senior leaders in FE, and people not coming through. So they were talking about it as a leadership crisis.
Big
and I was
word,
interested. Yeah, it is a big word, but there's lots of data to substantiate that there's a crisis looming, and so I was interested in that. But also, as a senior leader myself, interested in why people weren't interested, but in going into those roles, but also why they were. Why did they go into those roles? And maybe if we could understand a bit about senior leaders and what their drivers were and how they ended up in those roles, that maybe we'd be able to inspire the next generation. So I did lots of research around that, and that was basically what my thesis was about. I did life history interviews, so talked to senior leaders about their earliest memories of life right through to current day, and picked through any sort of critical moments, critical events, driving forces and those kind of things. And actually what came out of that was that there was no research about senior leaders in further education. It's really under-researched. There was no books about it. Lots of books about teachers and lots of books about people in schools, but nothing about FE. And so my own conclusion was that we need to re-narrativise senior leaders to make them, ordinary and so that people can think, I can aspire to that because I'm an ordinary person like them, and then I can do that role. So it's really come from that. So I think I've got space for about 15 stories. I've got quite a word count, but I've had so much interest. So I've got way more than 15 stories have been submitted, so I've got a really difficult job on my hand now to curate which ones go in, which order they go in as well, to make sure that we get a really diverse breadth of experiences and backgrounds and contexts and all those kind of things, so that it's not that it's an interesting read and we represent as many people as we possibly can. So it's a series of stories. The FE Commissioner has agreed to do the foreword, which is brilliant. And the ETF are supporting me as well. So it'll be a great collection of stories hopefully to inspire the next generation. Really
exciting. I'm really excited to read it.
Yeah, I've read a lot of the stories, and they're so interesting because everyone's got a different story to tell.
So obviously we're here to talk largely about Solihull College and its culture and what it stands for and its values. Yeah. So talk me through a little bit about that.
Okay, we've got a real community feel. So although we're 3 campuses, and we've got the 2 in Solihull and 1 in Stratford, so they're not necessarily really on each other's doorstep.
Not at all, but
we've got a community feel, and we have that in each campus. So each campus will be different, but then we're definitely one group. So we all know that we're part of one organisation. And since the merger with Stratford in 2017, so 8 years ago now, we've done a lot of work to make sure that everyone feels integrated and in part of one organisation. But we're a values-led organisation, and I think that if you were to go and talk to staff members, I really hope that the majority of them would tell you the majority of our values.
Yep.
And that's because we've done a lot of work on that over the last 3 years, particularly since I've been principal and CEO. One of my first jobs was I was offered the job in March, and I'd got a notice period, and somebody was interim at that point, so they were in till September. So I got a 6-month lead in, and the Chair of Governors set me the task in that 6 months to start to work up the new strategic plan. So I did lots of consultation with staff members around that, and as part of that we rewrote our values, because we had loads of values and nobody could remember what they were. We got posters, but nobody could articulate any of them.
It becomes whitewash.
Just have it, and there was too many to remember. So we've got 6 core values now. But over that 3-year period of that strategic plan, we've done loads of work to embed those values. So I do hope if you went and spoke to people now that most of them would know most, if not all, of those values as a result of that. But I think everything that we do and the messaging that we put out to staff members and to students and to our employers and our stakeholders is always reinforcing those values and what they mean for those people, in terms of however they're a stakeholder, what that means to them and what our expectations are of them, and what our expectations are of ourselves as well. So I think we're a really values-led organisation.
Important. What are your values?
So we've got 6, so 2 I's, 2 R's and 2 C's. Well, actually, it's by sheer coincidence.
2 I's, 2 R's. Yeah, even I can remember that, and you said it once.
Yeah. So inspiring and innovative.
Yep.
responsible and respectful, and caring and collaborative.
Yeah.
So we didn't mean it to be 2 I's, 2 R's and 2 C's. Those were actually the 6 words that came out. And then somebody said, oh, it's 2 I's, 2 R's and 2 C's there. So we've sort of moved them around so that they look, that we can say that as something that's easy to remember.
I've toured the country talking to people about their values, about their culture, and about what the organisation represents. There is no rhyme nor reason. No. And what I would also say is there's no right or wrong way. Bristol got lucky. Bristol spells Bristol, right? Yeah. And that is just phenomenally lucky.
Yeah.
The odds on finding 5, 6, 7 values that spell Solihull.
Yeah, with 2 L's.
Slim, right? Learning and lifelong.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and I don't know if you'll share this, and I don't know if I've ever shared this publicly, but values don't matter. Anyway, and call me out on it. I will absolutely be called out on it. But it's the behaviours and the standards of an organisation. And how do we make those values mean something? So how does Solihull make those values mean something? What do we describe as a typical Solihull person behaviour? So
people work together really closely. So that's that community feel. But collaboration between departments and across departments, across campuses is really strong, but also externally as well. So we collaborate really well externally. We expect, people are really kind and caring towards one another and supportive of one another. And again, you'd expect to see that in every organisation, but I think some, worked in lots of organisations myself, and that's not always what people would say about the culture, about it being supportive and kind, but I think it is definitely supportive, kind and caring here. And again, that's why people stay here a long time. And that's almost being able to innovate as well. So we really encourage innovation, encourage people to take risks, to try new things, to test new things out. We're in a privileged position that we're financially strong. We've got, good quality outcomes for learners. So we can we can try things out, take a few risks, buy a new bit of software and see what it's like and what impact it has. So, encouraging people to be innovative and to think a little bit differently and a bit more creatively about how they can do their job to the best effect for the stakeholders or whoever it is that they're serving. And it sounds like you went through a really organic process to identify those. Yeah. So you alluded a little bit that you did lots of consultations, but what do those consultations look like? How did we come to get to the end result? So lots of workshops. So primarily for that strategic plan at that point, there's workshops with staff, workshops with students primarily, and a little bit with employers through the employer services team. But the majority of that consultation was flip chart papers, pens, post-it notes, big rooms with things all around the walls, people scribbling on, people having conversations, and then taking all of that and trying to make some sense of it all, find the themes and those 6 values, but also our strategic ambitions. All of that came from there. I'm in the process of doing the next strategic plan now. So that was a 3-year plan. So it sort of it expires, if you like, in December 2025. So this December. Yeah. But this time I've done a much wider consultation, so I'm more embedded into the role now. So I've done much broader consultation with stakeholders, regulators, employers, parents, staff, students, managers, governors. So the whole. I've been doing this since April. Stakeholders. So stakeholders everywhere. All stakeholders. So we're not going to change the values because we feel the values are still, they're still relevant. They're still live, and they're working well. They're well embedded, and people take ownership of them. They see themselves in that, and they want to enact their roles in such a way that meets those values. But the strategic ambitions and how we actually work towards some of those things will change a little bit. And I've just completed IIP Platinum, and they will slam you for changing your values. And that's it. That's very interesting. I didn't know that. If it only lasts 3 years, there's a problem, isn't there? There is, because the values are set as the very lived DNA of the organisation. Yeah. Our values are grow. So grit, resilience. Grit, respect, optimism, well-being. And we don't need to change them. If we need to change anything about our organisation, we'll change the behaviours. Yeah. And we'll realign the behaviours with the values, and we'll call out the behaviours that aren't in line with where our direction. Yeah. Allude to then the strategy as well. Yeah. So that sounds like a lengthy process. Do you expect then, because you mentioned students in your conversation there, did you expect students to remember your values? Again, we've got 6. If they can remember 2 or 3, I'll be really happy with that.
Yep.
But so we've just inducted in our new cohort because we're in early October. So I do welcome talks with all students. So we set out what the values are, what it looks like to them, and I talked through. It's quite funny. I imagined two students, a set of twins, two students, and put their picture on the screen. Thanks to AI, who I hope the students aren't watching this. Thanks to AI, who generated images of what these students would look like and just told their stories, but embedded all the values of how, if you enact those values and live those values every day, how that can be, really impactful on your success. But on the other side, if you don't and you sort of behave against those values, how it might impact on your success negatively. So, but they were, some of them at the end were like, are those students still here? Are they on campus?
Thank you, AI.
Thank you,
creating reasonable doubt for everybody.
But yeah, so I think that the induction for students and the welcome talks, we talk about those. They can also praise each other, and so for staff, we can praise each other, we can praise students, and students can praise students as well. And actually they can praise staff members, but we can, all the praises, we've got an online system on our intranet, are linked to the values. So you might say, I'm going to praise this person for this value, and they give a little sort of descriptor of what that is. The person gets a notification to say they've been praised and what for. Their line manager or their personal tutor, if they're a student, gets the notification as well. And then we have awards and we have recognition and celebrations. So that has really helped. And to be honest, we started doing that with staff 3 years ago. And I thought, well, let's see. It's a good idea. Let's see if this takes off. And so I write a weekly newsletter. Every week we have hundreds and hundreds of names put forward for all of these values, and that has carried on all through that 3 year period.
How many students have we got here?
In total, we've got around, by the end of the year, we'll have about 15,000. We've got 6,000 16 to 18-year-olds, and then we've got apprentices, HE learners, adults. So some of those adults might be on a 2-day programme, but ultimately 15,000 will have...
But to generate sort of hundreds of points of praise in a week.
And I thought they might lose interest in it after a couple of months, but 3 years on, and in the newsletter we're having to sometimes really shrink down the font to get the volume of names in.
Don't make it so small.
No, but it's amazing. So the engagement, and that's why I feel fairly confident, quite confident, that if you were to go and ask staff members particularly, they would know all or the majority of those values. For students, it takes a bit longer, doesn't it? Yeah. And some of them are very new. But we've got posters up everywhere. We've got it on our screensaver is our values. We talk about them all the time. Communication is always about, this is respect, this is innovation or whatever. And, really try and make it so that they can see what actions that they can take, which are in line with those values, so they can make it personal and understandable to them.
I feel like you've literally just read loads. Back to me I'm writing a strategy at the minute on how to embed culture in organisations. You pretty much
You've done so much.
I've got, luckily for the audience and for me, there is still some stuff that I can share, but that would be broad strokes. If I was going out to start from scratch, that is exactly what I'd be doing. Even down to the wallpaper. So round of applause and fantastic work.
Yeah.
So anecdotally then, or in a measured manner, how do you measure whether culture is improving or detracting, reducing?
Well, there's a formal way and an informal way. So we do have a culture. We do use a tool. I don't know whether am I allowed to name tools?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
we're not the BBC.
We use something called Human Synergistics. I don't know if you've heard of them. So that's they're a global organisation. So they will do a formal remeasure of our culture. So we did it. I think it must have been about 5 years or so ago when we did it. Actually, it was when we first merged, so probably about 7 years ago we did it then. We did it as I started as principal and CEO, so that when I'm doing the new strategic plan, we sort of knew where we were, and then we'll do it next year, so at the changeover of the strategic plan, so we'll remeasure. It's a really detailed process, so every single person gets the link to do something online, and you answer a series of questions, but then the information that comes through is so detailed that we've got a book that's that thick of spider diagrams and charts and analysis.
Like a disc for a whole organisation, right?
But it's
personality.
huge, and it can tell us so much. And then we, myself and the VP for HR, had a day with the lead, that for our sort of, I suppose, relationship manager, if you will, who talked through in great detail what all of that looked like and what we could do to make marginal gains and to make continuous improvements. So that's what we do formally, and we've got real measures. We've got statistics and
every
data.
3 years, just for the audiences.
Yeah, but then it's talking to people. It's feedback,
really?
Isn't it? Anecdotal feedback. You get you can, and people are very open and honest. If they're not happy about something, you'll know about it. If they are happy with something, you'll know about it. So I think it's just talking to people, listening to people, and you get that sort of anecdotal building picture around things. And you can also see if it's different across campuses when you're doing that, and just walking around and talking to people. It's very simple,
remarkable,
and you can pick up so much from doing that. So I think you've got the informal and the formal.
And I think it's a compliment to you that you've just said, quite blasé, that if I walk around, people will share things with me. Because I think there are probably some people watching this that will think, I don't hear half the things I want to be hearing, good and bad. As I walk the halls, I was quite abruptly brought into the chief exec's party of, well, people don't tell you what they really feel, and people don't share everything with you until you foster a culture of, well, your feedback is mattered, your voice does matter. And even to this day, I still get some limited engagement on certain areas, and I think, how can I drive that? And I think the be all and end all of it is, if people give you feedback, do something about it.
Yeah, well, that is the thing.
That.
Yeah, because otherwise I lose trust. But so I make sure in my diary, I spend time across all 3 campuses every week anyway. That's in my diary. But then when I'm there, I make sure I walk around, pop into staff rooms, pop into classrooms, and talk to people. And even last week, I was at one of the campuses, and I said, "Oh, how has the start of the year been?" And she said, a lady in the staff room said, "Do you want to know the truth?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Shut the door then," because I was stood in the doorway. So I was like, "Okay, right, hit me with it." And it was things that were really frustrating to her and her colleagues, but that just needed sorting out, and they could be sorted out really quickly. I was like, okay, right, leave it with me. So I went, talked to a few people, got the stuff done, closed the loop. Very happy staff room there for sorting out some things which were quite simple to sort out.
And that brings me back to that 100 small things I talked about, right? So if you do the 100 small things right, you reduce the friction within the organisation, you manage to create a culture that has at its core people, because you get rid of things like the whiteboard pen. So the best example of poor culture, I go into a room and I start pulling out whiteboard pens and I start trying to write on the board, and every pen is broken, but no one's put them in the bin, right? So I get to the end, I've got no pens. I've gone through 8 whiteboard pens, and that whiteboard I haven't got a pen to work. How infuriating. I'm not about to blow my lid about whiteboard pens. What I'm infuriated is that 8 people, I assume, or one person, let's blame one person, has picked up a pen, put it back down. Until I've come in to do my job, and my job was to draw all over the board, and I can't do it. I go to the paper, and the printer, there's no paper. I go looking for the textbooks, and we haven't got the order in yet. So as college leaders, if we can remove little things, little barriers, the bigger stuff becomes simpler and simpler, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But it's giving them it's about, having confidence and that you're going to do something about it. It's trust. It's building trust, isn't it? So one of the biggest gripes in this staff room was that the light in the toilet didn't work. And they were concerned that there's a pregnant colleague, and they were worried that she might, trip or whatever. I think I've mentioned it to the caretaker 3 times, and it hasn't been changed. Well, that's easy. I can fix that.
I'll do it myself.
It's easy. But actually, those little things can be a real frustration to people, can't they? And and again, telling someone and nothing gets done about it. So it's building trust by actually doing something about it, following it up, closing the loop, and actually wanting to know really what people's experience is, because I genuinely do want to know. I want them to have the best experience. Otherwise, you don't get up in the morning and come to work 5 days a week to have a rubbish experience with a dark toilet.
Definitely not the dark toilet. Pregnant with a dark toilet is a no-go for me. And I think there'd be no faith if you can't do the little things. What are you trying to take on the big things?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. And you will feel that lack of confidence in an organisation if you can't get the granular detail right.
Exactly.
Moving on to the college itself and as an employer, what are the kind of 3 main reasons that people come here?
From what we hear from people who apply, which is our only benchmark, I suppose, it's reputation. So recently, last academic year, the government changed the times that the number of hours for our delivery of maths and English, and they said teach these extra hours if you can this year, and then next year you have to teach the extra hours. So we wanted to get ahead of the curve, so we thought, okay, let's go for it. So we tried to recruit around 20 to 25 maths and English teachers, and they're really hard to find, particularly maths, but we were overwhelmed with the response. We were shocked actually that we managed to fill all of those vacancies in hard to reach areas, but the overwhelming feedback that came through from people was reputation, and people particularly in maths and English were saying they've had their eye on the college for a while, but there weren't any jobs that came up. So when jobs came up, they sort of jumped at the chance to apply. So we know that reputation is, and when people come to interviews, they will always say about the reputation.
And is that reputation? So because I can't let you off the hook with just that. Yeah. Is that as an employer or as outcomes for learners? Or is it both?
Both. I think both. And I think different people would say one or the other and some would say both. So I think reputation, we do a lot for development as well. So internal and external development. We've got a really healthy CPD budget, so people are able to do extra qualifications if they want to, masters, PhDs, all of those things, or else internal.
As long as it's relevant to...
Yeah, of course, yeah. And it's going to impact on the organisation. So I think development is strong. But I think some of the things that we're known for as well, so we do a lot of research, so we've got a really strong research culture, and some people who are really into research don't necessarily have that in the colleges that they work in. So I think they can also see opportunities to get involved in other things. So I think those are the key reasons that people want to come here.
I'd work somewhere that I felt was innovative.
Yeah.
If I thought they were going to do something different.
Yeah.
Because we are human and we're curious by our very nature. Anyone says they're not curious should have a word missing from a sentence, right? Because actually we are all curious. So if I feel like you're inspiring that in me, I'll align, and it also aligns with your values, so that's fantastic. Yeah. And beyond salary, beyond material benefits, what's the one standout thing that makes it special?
I think it's the inclusive community culture, and I think that definitely lends itself. If you see that in our retention, so we have loads of staff members. So over 10% of our staff members have done over 20 years in the college. So I did every year we have a long service awards in December, and I think I totted up how many years in that cohort, and I think there was like 3,000 years or something of the
dinosaurs were still here.
But actually, what a wealth of experience,
corporate
and
knowledge
expertise. So we have a lot of staff members. Over 10% have done over 20 years, and if we were to look at who'd done over 10 years, it would be over 50% of the college. So there's a lot there. But I think we are really inclusive. I think we offer lots of opportunities to get involved in a wide range of things outside of the job roles as well. We allow, we facilitate and encourage people to do different things when they're here. So some staff members said, I want to set up a staff network for various different groups. So go ahead. Here's a bit of budget, you can do that. So we're encouraging people to get involved in things, and students as well as staff members. So I think because people can then not just do whatever their job is, but they can get involved in things that they're passionate about, and we actively sort of empower them to do that. I think that's something that keeps people here.
There's that word. You've said the magic word.
It's the empower word.
It's the empower word. And do you know what? I don't even make a joke out of it. Our values, our purpose is to empower people and to change lives. And I think we deliberately mimicked our sector to support that, because actually, what is FE? It's an empowerment tool for the workforce. It takes our students, it takes our children, it takes our young people and our adults further in life. And that is empowerment in its definition.
Well, we had, I'll just tell you about Sasha. So Sasha was a student 5 years ago, I think, and she came straight from school. She was from Bulgaria and she'd come to the UK in 2012 and she couldn't speak English before that, but her English was perfect by the time she got to college, age 16. She was remarkable. And she was really passionate about public sexual harassment. And she'd gone, when she was at school, she used to ask the school if she could do training sessions and do campaigns and things, and the school said no. So she came here, joined the student executive committee and said, I'm really interested in that. So we were like, yeah, absolutely, get involved. She came as a 16-year-old to our management meeting. There was about all college managers, so maybe 40 people. She presented as a 16-year-old to all of these managers on public sexual harassment, what it meant, what they could do, what we needed to support, how we needed to support our students and ourselves. Amazing. She then became Student Voice Executive President, and then she's now at university, but she works for us 10 hours a week, and she goes out and does training sessions for other colleges, for managers, for students, and she's such an energetic and she's so knowledgeable and so passionate about what she does. And actually, it's those things, and it's for students as well as staff. That's the empowering people to do something about whatever they're passionate about that makes this a special place, I think.
Sasha smashed it.
Sasha's smashing it.
Sasha's smashing it with the help of Solihull College.
Yeah.
So absolutely.
Yeah. And
credit to you and the team, Rebecca.
She will say that we've opened that for her and enabled her to take that forward. But she was also the NAMS Student of the Year. She's done amazing things, and she must only be 20 or 21 now. She's
Sasha.
Just doing her degree. Yeah.
Sasha, if you're watching this.
Yeah, well done, Sasha. But yeah, Sasha's one of many where there have been other things that we've encouraged and facilitated, and that's the beauty of this college, I think.
And if you could improve one thing then about the benefits that you offer to this college and to its staff, what would you do?
It would always have to come down to pay, wouldn't it? And our terms and conditions are as good as they possibly could be. Yes. So we compare with other colleges. We know our teaching hours are lower than others, our holidays are higher than others, so all of those things. It would always have to come down to pay. If we could pay in line with inflation, the inflationary rises all the time whenever they happened, and schools and universities, then if I could make that happen, that would be what I do. We pay well. We, again, compared to other colleges in the region, we pay well, but it's never as much as a school teacher or a university lecturer, is it? Or inflation. So that would be what I would do.
And it's really difficult, right? Because there were two competing forces that I've discovered in doing the work that I do with colleges. You have one side, Ofsted and everyone else saying you need to have good financial health or better. So you need to get an 8% or 6.6% EBITDA.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the funding bands don't allow you to pay staff properly.
No.
So under what's the criteria? Would we not rather colleges run at a 2% and pay the staff more? But you have to. You've got to take a judgment. It's not your choice in this one.
And there are benchmarks. The FE Commissioner's got a benchmark that we shouldn't spend more than 65% of our income on pay. And we stretch it a little bit to 66 or 67. Yep. I know some colleges stretch it to 70-something. But then you have to balance your financial health and all the other things. It is a real challenge, but that would be the one thing. If I had a magic wand, that would be the one thing I would do.
We're coming into the last couple of questions, and largely we're going to talk a lot about you now, Rebecca. Yeah. So who are the role models? Because you've done so much. You've achieved so much. Is there anyone that's inspired this?
I think probably a series of people. There isn't one person who sort of I see as a role model that I think, everything about that person is what I want to aspire to. But I think there are bits out of lots of people. And as I meet new people and as I go about my business daily and, networks and read things or hear podcasts or meet people, there are elements from everyone. There's always something you can learn, isn't there? There's something you can learn from everybody that you meet. Even, it could be students, it could be staff members. So I think not one standout role model, but certainly a jigsaw puzzle of lots of elements from lots of different people. I'm always learning and taking things in and reflecting on conversations I've had, and I think that's probably what I do in terms of having ideas and taking things forward. It's just little bits from lots of different people, and also I think there's also people who I've worked for or worked with who have almost shown me the impact of what not to do.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. So, and again, looking at sometimes the impact that individuals have on other people without knowing without knowing it as well, without being aware of it. So I think I'm just constantly taking in all of that from good and bad influences, really, and putting into practice what I hear that I like and that's worked well, the things that speak to me and my values, and then making sure I actively don't do the things that that don't go so well or that people don't really appreciate.
Because people will tell you how they want to be treated. They will either vote with their feet or they will tell you with their voice.
And
absolutely.
You'll see it.
So in your career then, at the moment, are you picking up any development? Are you on any courses? Is there anything that you'd recommend anyone else do?
Yeah, so I did the... I'm not here as a sales pitch for ETF, but I am going to pitch their programmes. The Preparing for CEO programme was brilliant, and I did that when I was vice principal, and I was thinking about applying for the principal role. So that's great. And then when I became principal and CEO, I did their CEO programme. So again, they do it with Oxford Side Business School. Great. The networking is amazing, as well as the actual development sessions that you get as well. So I think we've got WhatsApp groups, good old WhatsApp groups, but they're really active and protect. The CEO Preparing for CEO group. We did that probably 4 years ago now, and it's still really active. We talk every week. There's people sharing problems, asking for solutions to things, or can we have a look at this policy together? Loads of different ways.
Because yours was a very successful
really
group.
Good, really successful group. I think we had. I think we're on number 10 now of people who have got into CEO roles.
CEO factory.
Lynette Leith is the most recent one. So when she starts, I think it's in November, she's starting Boston. But she's the most...
Congratulations, Lynette.
Yeah, congratulations, Lynette. Amazing. So really good groups. So, but then I've just found out yesterday, so I'm really excited that I'm going to be on, I can't remember the actual term for this, but it's run by the Cabinet Office, and it's for CEOs in public sector. So there's a programme, so I'm starting that in January. So I'm really excited for that, because it has people from the NHS, local council, fire service, police, all of those kind of things. So I think in terms of system leadership, that will be really useful. So again, I'm always looking for opportunities. I've done something through the ETF, through the AOC. Constant development.
You are the walking advert of further education.
Yeah,
constant change, constant development, learn from everything, take it on.
Exactly, yeah.
Fantastic.
Talk to people.
Actually talk to people, like that one.
Talk to people.
What would be your advice then to future leaders looking to progress with an FE?
Interesting, because I'm actually mentoring a couple of future leaders at the moment. So we have a programme that's called Future Leaders. So people on there that I'm mentoring. I think it's about sticking to, being really clear on what your values are and being true to those values. Be authentic, be honest, and have integrity. I think they're the key things, because if you've got that, if you know who you are, what you stand for, and you're true and honest about that, everything else happens. Everything else will go on, but you can always be truthful at the core, and I think that's what builds trust and builds fruitful relationships, professional relationships, and partnerships with other organisations and that kind of thing. So I think that's what I would always say to them. And also, if they're looking to go and find a job elsewhere, it's make sure it fits with your culture and what you want to do. Don't try and bend yourself to fit something that if it's not a natural fit, wait, be patient, and something that's right for you will come along.
Whenever I've tried to bend my business model to suit someone else, it's not worked.
No.
And that's rightly or wrongly. I will happily be lambasted if I'm wrong. But knowing who I am and what I am and the values that I represent have been massively integral to the last couple of years to making good strategic decisions. Yeah, I think that's key. So Rebecca, incredibly knowledgeable, loads going on, and kind of one final question from me, which is probably more for me than the audience and anyone else. I'm a bit selfish here. You've had some books in front of you. Can you tell me what the books are, and do you recommend them?
Yes, okay. Well, here's two I prepared earlier. So actually so I mentioned about the ETF programme. These books are written by people who came and did sessions with us on the ETF programme. So Sarah Rosenthaler's Powered by Purpose. She's a really engaging speaker, so I went and bought her book. But it's about going back to really being sure on what your purpose is and what you're trying to achieve, and the importance of going back to basics and really thinking about what that is, articulating it, being honest about it, and making sure that everything that you do then reflects that purpose. So great book. She's got a great story to tell as well. She's a juggler, so it's well worth reading that. Yeah. And also I've been to a couple of sessions with Gabriella Brown as well. She's such an inspiring person, and again, great. I love stories, so she's got a great story to tell. And this book I'm interested in psychology, so I didn't study psychology, but I'm naturally really interested in it. But this book talks about how our ancestry and our history of our previous generations actually impacts on us as individuals, and then how we bring that to work, how that manifests in our behaviours and our attitudes at work. Fascinating if you are into psychology. And there's case studies in here, so she's worked with organisations, and she talks really clearly about what was going on in the culture. And the things that people thought were the problems with the culture weren't the problems with the culture, but actually it was really quite a lot deeper than that in terms of the individuals in the teams. And it's fascinating. So, and it's written in such a way it's almost like a novel.
It looks like a novel.
So you can read it. You can read it by a pool if you're on holiday. You can read. You don't have to just sort of it's not a theoretical book. So really interesting. So I would recommend that as well.
Rebecca, thank you.
Thank you
so much for that beautiful insight into Solihull College and University Centre, staff, the culture, your personal journey. And I must say I'm excited to see you in the near future.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. I'm really excited for your book.
Thank you.